Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. Today we are going to be talking about who is one of my favorite support champions inside the entire game, which is pretty cool considering that she was actually a former fusion. So there's going to be a lot of people that have this champion, and a lot of people that might even pull this champion going forward. If you're on this video because you just pulled this champion, then congratulations. You just got a very, very good support hero inside the game. So make sure to stick around. I'll be talking about how to build her, how I use her, all that sort of good stuff. So it is, of course, Lady Noelle that we're talking about. That was the Christmas fusion for 2024, and she kind of went along with like a whole Sir Nicholas event. So those two champions pair together quite well. But she is absolutely sensational in my opinion. As you can see, she has very high ratings everywhere inside the game. So let's go ahead and hop into it. What makes her so special? Well, first of all, I was lucky enough to get her booked out with only one book landing in the A1, so that's pretty cool. She's an A1, has an 80% chance of placing a block buffs, also decreases their turn meter by 20% if they're under a freeze. These effects cannot be resisted if Sir Nicholas is on the same team. Now, if you're not familiar with Sir Nicholas, he is another Sacred Order champion. So it's going to be this fantastic looking gentleman right here, Santa Claus himself essentially. Now Sir Nicholas, I want to cover this real quick because he is not a particularly good champion. So he has an A1 where he has a chance of placing a freeze, can't be resisted, A2, AoE, places a shield, not huge damage unfortunately, and in an A3, it places an unkillable and a continuous heal for 4 turns. So these two combined can do some decent work, and Lady Noelle certainly gets a lot stronger with Sir Nicholas on the team. However, Sir Nicholas on his own, or even Sir Nicholas when he's on the team, are not too strong. So that's just something to consider. A2, target an ally. If the target ally is under a sheep, remove it. If the target is not under a sheep, removes all debuffs from them instead. If the target ally is not under a sheep, heals them by 50% of her max HP. Also heals all allies equal to 50% of any surplus heal. If the target is Sir Nicholas, instantly activates his Goodwill skill. So that's going to be his A3 that places the unkillable and the continuous heals. Then places a increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. So on a 3-turn cooldown, you're getting a 2-turn speed increase. You're getting potentially a full cleanse, as well as a huge heal, as well as a surplus heal to everybody else on the team, as well as potentially activating a unkillable buff on your team. It's an absolutely insane A2, right? It's so strong. A3 is just as good in my opinion. Revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter on a 3-turn cooldown. Already, that's going to be one of the best revives in the entire game, even Void Legendaries included. There are very few champions, even at Legendary level, that can do a full revive AoE with 50% HP and more importantly 50% turn meter, right? If we look at some of the other competent revivers like Pythion, he's going to revive everybody with 50% HP and 50% turn meter, but this is on a 4-turn cooldown. And that's it, right? He just places a strengthen. If you look at even like Duchess, for example, it's nowhere near the strength of this revive because Lady Noelle also has a 75 books to 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Will place the freeze debuff even if there are no dead allies. So basically this just means, hey, even if somebody can't be revived, she can still freeze them, which is absolutely incredible. This debuff cannot be resisted or blocked if Sir Nicholas is on the same team. So this is a bit misleading because, you know, you might think, hey, Stone Skin, it can't block my debuff anymore. They're going to get frozen. That's not exactly true. So it can go through, like, block debuffs and stuff like that, but still, like, your Stone Skins and your protections of that nature are still going to block it, unfortunately. But this is such a strong kit already, but she also has a passive of decreasing the speed of enemies under freeze debuffs by 10%. When a sheep debuff expires on an ally, fills their turn meter by 50%. That is insane. If there are multiple champions on the team with a skill, these effects will only activate once. And then on top of that all, she has a 30% aura in arena battles. This is one of the strongest auras out there apart from some like mythical champions. And she also has 105 base speed. So she can essentially be your arbiter at some point, right? With like an increased speed, turn meter fills, all that sort of stuff. She's absolutely insane. If you're going against an Armands and the A3s and you pop out of the sheep, you're not just going to be sitting there like an idiot with your head between your legs with no turn meter. She's going to fill your turn meter as well. She's so strong. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build. I have 59,000 HP, 3,300 defense, 334 on the speed, 384 resistance, and 408 on the accuracy. Now, here's how I would tweak this build. If you can, more speed, more HP, and more accuracy, essentially. As you can see, I have her 5-star awakened. I have something in my eye again, apparently. I have her 5-star awakened, and I am running her inside the polymorph blessing because I don't have much for polymorph on my team, essentially. So I do still need accuracy for this because, of course, it's not the 6-star where it's irresistible. If you're not running her inside polymorph, there's some other fantastic options as well. Like Life Harvest would be a very competent way to run her. Temporal Chains might be decent as well. And then, of course, perhaps most notably, is going to be Intimidating Presence, because a lot of players had the option to get the 5-star soul for her. That's how I got it, right? So Intimidating Presence on her is going to be absolutely game-changing for your account. But yeah, for the build, more speed, more accuracy, more HP. If you have Sir Nicholas on the same team, obviously you don't need to worry about accuracy, so that's something to consider as well. Though you will still need the accuracy if you're running her inside polymorph, of course. When it comes to the relic, I have her in the Inferno Sphere, mainly because I just simply don't have anything else to put on her. So, and I don't even really have any good glyphs that I can put into it either, but ideally for relics, you're going to want something that just helps her survive. So we'll go through the relic index here and just kind of, you know, talk about potential options that you could put on her. So, of course, a Hallowed Hilt could be very good to get the extra HP on her. Wand of Submission is going to be like best in slot for basically any single champion inside this game. Journal of Necrodos is going to be very solid as well. This is hands down an S tier rare relic, so it's pretty awesome. It's going to increase her turn meter fill and her heals by 15%. Of course, Chrono Cube is very strong as well, and I am going to move myself here just so you can more effectively see the relic effects, but Chrono Cube is very strong just because of its ability to give you 2 turns. When it comes to the event group, nothing they're really worried about. There is another one here that, there we go. So the Chrysalid of Rebirth is going to have like a 30 books to 50, books to 100% chance to get an extra turn when reviving allies or themselves. So obviously with her A3 AoE revive, you can then come in, place the increased speed after. It's very, very strong to run her in something like that. And that's pretty much it. Those are, you know, the relics that you want on her. If you don't have those relics available as an option, then realistically you're probably just going to want to go ahead and run her with whatever best stat stick that you have, right? So that is how I would build her out. Now for Masteries, I'm going to move myself back to the other side. Oops, not that. Right there. Boom. Put myself over here. I do actually have her inside Timely Intervention. Timely Intervention is very strong, increasing her turn meter by 20% whenever an ally hero drops below 25% HP. This is exactly what you want on your revivers. I also have Cycle of Revenge, where she has a chance of increasing her turn meter by 15% when an ally is attacked with a critical hit. Obviously, you can't really use some of these masteries inside certain PvE modes, like City of Centranos, for example, but very, very strong. Evil Eye on her as well, so she can go ahead and just start to throw back some turn meters there. The only thing to really be aware of course, if you're using Evil Eye against somebody like a Marius, as we've seen him pop up in the meta quite a bit, that's going to be a bit problematic. In terms of the build, though, I do have her in 1 turn of Stone Skin, as well as a reaction banner on her. For the build, I would probably recommend 1 to 2 turns of Stone Skin, so if you can get a 6-piece Stone Skin on her, definitely go for it. Essentially, the way I see it is the more Stone Skin that you build her in, probably the slower you're going to have her, because with her 1 turn of Stone Skin, it's essentially just there to make sure that I can't be CC'd by any sort of like Hegemon, Tormin, champions like that. It's not necessarily there to make her survive, because she's not really built to be a go second champion. So certainly, if you're putting her inside 2 turns of Stone Skin, you're going to want a lot more resistance on her. We're talking probably like 8 to 900 resistance if you're at my level of game, where you're in like Gold 4 Live Arena, Gold 5 Classic Arena. Gold 5 Classic Arena, you can get away with significantly lower stats, though, of course. And this build isn't min-maxed, right? So I have crit damage gauntlets on her, people. If I can attain this build, anybody can attain it. This just happens to be my best accuracy and speed gauntlets from Stone Skin. So she is very, very incredible. Let's go ahead and let's take a look here and see what she's actually capable of doing. What kind of teams do you want to run her against? Well, you want to run her against teams that are going to offer you the opportunity to do a bunch of CC, right? So if we bring Lady Noelle in here like this, basically, this is a speed team. We might get kind of clapped by the Marius there if he opens up with his A2, because again, we just don't really have the stats to survive it if they're faster. We do get the fears out. They have, of course, all that sort of good stuff. And you can just see everybody's inside stone skin on my team, so we don't even have to worry so much about a Armands. We do have Marius comes in there and unfortunately claps us a little bit, but there we go. So we have we have Lady Noelle on the ground, so it's not really going to be a good showcase for her. Let's go ahead and try to find a different team. Again, any sort of a team that's bringing in, like, just something that you want to be able to survive. So she does work well in a go second role at the speeds that I have, because if you don't have a dedicated buff stripper, like here, for example, if this was live arena, their Armands is going to have to choose between, trying to strip my Noel versus, just trying to go in with his A2, right? And the A2 isn't going to do anything if Lady Noelle has stone skin. So just something to consider there. And then obviously we have all these AoEs and whatnot coming in here as well, which is pretty cool. We're just going to A1 with the Taurus in on the Armands there. And obviously I get the fact that, hey, you're using Armands and Marichka on your team with you, but at the end of the day, she's still very strong on her own as well. And she's just getting lapped here, but here we go. So you can see we place the freeze on everybody. It gets placed, no problem. Another blessing that you could definitely use on her that I want to call out as well is going to be Lightning Cage. If you're using her, of course, inside, and you get the decreased turn meter block buffs there, which is very strong against countering like any sort of swift parry or anything like that. But yeah, like I was going to say, you could use her easily in Lightning Cage as well, just to make sure that any sort of protection that you have placed is not going to get stripped. So, for example, if you have, like, a Marius on the other team, not Marius per se, but if you have an Armand's A3, if you have a Sun Wukong's A3, anything like that, Lightning Cage can really help to make sure that stone skin stays protected on your team, which is pretty cool. We're going to come in here, show you her CC abilities. She gets polymorphed by the enemy Armands, unfortunately. 1-star Armands came in and polymorphed me, by the way. How shitty is that? How terrible does that feel? Oh my god, and the reaction stops our Sun Wukong from killing them. That is insane. That is insane. Raid gets a really bad rep right now for their late game PvP because it's all just a bunch of RNG, as much RNG as you can throw into the fight, and that fight really just showcased it. Let's try it again. Hopefully the 1-star Armands doesn't polymorph us. There we go. We get the AoE freeze. We're going to go ahead and hit into somebody else as well, so we're not hitting reaction on the Sun Wukong there. We take out Marichka. We get the block revive on everybody else as well. Sun Wukong is going to come back in a couple of turns, though, so ideally we'd like to have the rest of the team put down before that happens, but I doubt it will. We get the increased speed there. Sun Wukong comes back. We push back his turn meter. AoE is solid enough to finish everybody out. We do have an arena tournament going on as well, so that works out pretty incredibly. Lady Noelle is very solid for a lot of PvP as well. So obviously having an A1 block buffs is going to make her very competent for something like Hydra, right? The only thing that would really make it better is if she had some sort of AoE block buffs capabilities, but unfortunately, that's not the case. She's also really good, obviously, for City of Centranos, almost everywhere. The amount of control she brings in her kit, as well as the amount of support she brings in her kit, with not only heals, but revives, and just support overall. She's going to absolutely be fantastic for most of those roles. Let's go ahead and let's try this team. We went against this with the slower team. Let's see if we can do anything against it with the fast team. I don't think we'll be able to, actually, because they are inside stone skin, which would be a bit unfortunate, and their Shuzen is faster anyway, so it just really doesn't matter, unfortunately. And then, of course, we do get the stone skin removed there, but we're going to get clapped anyways. She just doesn't have the HP to stay alive, unfortunately. Faction Wars, absolutely fantastic champion, right? So, especially with hard mode Faction Wars coming out sooner rather than later, we don't necessarily know, who we're going to need for these Faction Wars, but chances are that we're almost always going to need revivers. We're always going to need supports, and we're always going to need control, right? This is an insane team, by the way. They have, like, no gear on them. Look at these speeds. This is pretty questionable, but whatever. AoE freeze comes in. The only thing to really note, and the only thing to be aware of when you're using the freeze on Lady Noelle, is obviously freeze makes it so that the enemy team takes, I think it's 25% less damage. So you are technically helping the enemy team's survivability when you freeze them, right? But it's also a very, very good version of crowd control. So having that crowd control on them at an AoE proc is very, very strong. I'm not going to lie. I use her all of the time inside Live Arena with her current build, and quite often I actually see people banning her over somebody like, for example, an Armands or something like that, because obviously the 5-star sheep on her. I don't have much for sheep on the rest of my champions, as you can tell, so I'm not used to, you know, polymorphing the enemy team. So having a 5-star sheep, it could be such a potential game changer. 15% chance for it to activate every single time they do something to us is very, very strong. And then obviously she has the accuracy to make it happen as well. And then on top of that, just the level of support that she brings is so strong. And Lady Noelle is one of those champions that, like, there's so many different ways to build her. It's really hard to figure out how exactly she's going to be built. So she could be built simply as just a support champion that's going to sit there in 2 turns of Stone Skin with Lightning Cage and, you know, revive when needed and freeze you and all that sort of stuff. But she could also be built as a speed booster, right, or a fast control champion. We're going to go through and rate her. I think ratings are something that I want to add to my videos. So Arena offense and defense are both 5s. Faction Wars is a 5. Hydra, I think, is absolutely a 5. Chimera, 100% a 5. She's bringing you increased speed, heals, block buffs, AoE revive, right? There's not much more that you need than that. Campaign locations, she's probably going to be like a 4. If you're just progressing through it, she can help you. Dragon, she's going to be a 5. Spider, absolutely a 5. Ice Golem, a 5. She can help keep you alive. Now, Demon Lord is a bit interesting because really when you're rating these champions, you need to make sure that you're rating them fairly based on what they are. And so expecting someone rather to have a legendary Void champion that was a former fusion might be kind of fair, but also expecting them to have a legendary Void companion champion might be a little bit unfair. So with Sir Nicholas, she is a 5, right? Because she can activate his A3. The 2 of them together, I don't know how well you can set it up on auto or with an auto fight, but the 2 of them together, you have an unkillable team right there, right? So she'd be an easy 5. Without him, though, she probably goes down to like a 3 because she's just not really that incredible. Iron Twins, probably a 3, honestly. Fire Knight, she's going to get like a 1. She doesn't bring multi-hits. She doesn't bring turn meter decrease. Really, she's just there for like the increased speed, right? Void Keep, she's going to get a 4, sure. Minotaur, she's going to get a 3. You could use her. The Keeps are honestly always kind of just rated really high, right? So right around a 4, I think, is fair. Sand Devils, she could be useful, but I think she's just going to get a good. Phantom Shogun, I think she'll get a 4, actually, from me, just because she does have a lot of use there as well. But you can see, very strong base stats. She's an absolutely incredible champion. There's actually some lore behind her as well. And if we look throughout the rest of the Sacred Order faction, there's not a ton of really good support champions, right? So for revivers especially, you're looking at like Cardinal, Godseeker, and Eerie at the epic level, and I mean those are both voids, right? So they're going to be significantly harder to get than a non-void champion. Even at a legendary level, there's not much for revivers, right? So we have what? We have Cardiel, who is a revive on death. We have Maud, who's a reviver, but I mean the amount of people that have her is probably like 12. So you know, though more people are getting her. And then you have Siegfried, right? So she definitely helps to fill a crucial role inside this faction that, again, we're probably going to end up needing for hard faction wars as well. So she is such a good champion, and I figured I'd do a little showcase / build on her. And of course, like I said, the build's not min-max, people, right? So you can make your own build that's going to be significantly better at the end of the day. I have a Discord linked down below as always, though. So if you have very strong builds for her, or if, you know, you beat me in live arena and want to brag about it, feel free to go ahead and hop into the Discord. I'd love to have you there. We have a fantastic community that's growing. That being said, though, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.